for 3 sports that we do in triathlon does not count as normal. Therefore, the normal eating plan of 3 meals a day is not going to sufficiently meet those nutritional needs. Some days you're going to need more than others, and it depends what training session you've got coming up as to when and what you need to eat. Now, this does require quite a lot of forethought and planning to make sure you've got those meals or those snacks in between your meals to make sure you can optimize that next training session. Well, we've got some tips and strategies to help you plan your food intake throughout the day. Forward planning is key to nutrition on the go. You need to analyse your training for the day ahead and then look at when your main meals will fall around your training, but also around your work. And then you can build in that extra nutrition and those snacks around your timetable. Now, today we're not actually going to be addressing hydration, but it's certainly key. So you need to make sure you're well hydrated throughout the day so you can optimize that training. And ultimately, nutrition is there to help you reach those goals, whatever they are. If, for example, though, your goal is weight loss, nutrition actually becomes even more important, and planning really is key here, because the last thing you want is to suddenly have really strong hunger and then you've just got to give in and go to the chocolate bars in the vending machine, which is not going to be helping you reach that goal. And if you've got a fastest session in your program, you want to make sure that that comes first thing in the morning. And it's really important to have adequate fuel to be able to take on straight after your session. So you want something that's going to be easy to digest, but also easy to carry, so you don't have to wait till you get home. So maybe a recovery drink, make a smoothie, or even take some bread that you can eat whilst on the go. Porridge, for this instance, wouldn't be so useful. Then you need to think about when hunger usually strikes and where you like to be at those points. The idea is to resist those nutritionally empty foods. So if you do know that you've got a cafe that sells healthy snacks nearby and you can bank on it, great. But if not, make sure you plan and put some healthy snacks in your bag. But do consider the temperature outside, because if you've got something that maybe melts a little bit, you don't want to find a mushy mess in the bottom of your bag unless you've got a fridge at work. You also need to look at your next session and think about how long after your previous meal it's going to fall and whether you need to add in some extra snacks. If, say, it's a nice, steady, long aerobic bike session, you can probably just fuel as you go along. But if you know you've got a really key lactic run session, you need to make sure that your fuel levels are optimum beforehand, but you've also digested whatever it is that you're going to eat. And then you need to look ahead at the following day as well. If it's a light day, then probably not so much of a concern because you can fuel throughout it. But say you know you've got a fasted training session that next morning, then consider really having an evening snack or topping up those energy levels just before you go to bed so you can perform optimally in the morning. Like I said, today I'm going to be focusing on those snacks between your main meals. Now, how many and how often of them you need is obviously going to depend on the amount of training you're doing, but also that nutritional value of your breakfast, your lunch and your supper. For this, you want to top up those depleted glycogen levels as soon as you can. So you want some simple carbohydrates to really help those energy levels boost quickly, but then also some more complex carbohydrates to help keep you satiated and full for a little bit longer until your next meal. So for this, again, a smoothie or a milkshake is something perfect if you want to take it on the go. Or if you've got a little bit more time to sit down, then how about making a sandwich with some almond butter and maybe banana in, or even birch and muesli, which will tick all the boxes. If you are limiting your carbohydrate intake, but you're trying to up your protein levels, then hard boiling an egg the night before to take with you can work really well. Although it does come with a little caveat, because when you start to peel it in the office, you might get some disapproving looks, as I know Mark and Fraser do not approve of my egg stash that I quite often have. But if it's not an egg for you, then you can maybe consider nuts and seeds, or even cheese as a easy on the go protein uptake. But just be aware they do have a higher fat content. It's that time of day when the munchies can kick in. If you're sat at your desk and you might be a little bit bored, it's really tempting to delve into that cookie jar, but you want to try and resist those empty calories. So prepare, if you've got a fridge, for example, at work, you could take some yogurt with some fruit, sprinkle some milled linseed on top to help keep you going, or maybe have a milky coffee, say an oat milk latte like this. But if you crave something a little bit sweeter, you need that sugar fix, then maybe a piece of fruit or some dates, for example, that will give you that boost, but you've also got some added vitamins. If you know you've got a big session planned in your lunch break, you want to make sure that you're not hungry, because otherwise it can be far too tempting to sack off your training and go for lunch instead. So if, say, an hour before your session, you're just starting to get a little bit of a feeling of hunger, first of all, make sure that you're not dehydrated, because that could be tricking your brain into hunger. So just always have a glass of water at your desk. But if that doesn't solve it, then have something light, but it's going to top up your glycogen levels, say a homemade flapjack or something similar that's not going to give you a stitch for your session, but it's just going to make sure you've got the right energy levels. Then again, if lunch isn't going to fuel you all the way through and you know you've got a really meaty session looming after work, you need to be prepared, because it is that time of day that cakes or sweets in the office can be tempting. But that said, having a few sweets, if they're going to top up your energy levels and make the difference you being able to nail that session, aren't necessarily a bad thing. But if you do want something a little bit healthier, think about those mid-morning snacks I mentioned earlier, but just avoid any fibre if you've got a hard session. Those dreaded late night training sessions are mentally tough enough without having poor nutrition to make them harder. So if you know it's going to be too late to have a proper meal afterwards, you want to plan something in before. So try and have a lighter early evening snack, whether that's as soon as you get home from work, or if you're really organised, maybe you can even have something at your desk before you finish work. And finally, once you've completed that last training session of the day, it's not uncommon to feel that your appetite's a little bit suppressed and you're buzzing from it before going to bed. But it's still really important to make sure you fuel to recover from that session, but also importantly to make sure you're ready for the next day. So for this, maybe having a milkshake or a smoothie in your bag to have on the way home from training, or once you get back, having a yogurt or some cereal, something like that that's just going to top up your energy levels and mean you're ready to go for the next day. Well, I've covered every single option here, and hopefully you're not going to need all of those snacks throughout a day. But with a little bit of forward planning, you can make sure that nutrition is not going to be the limiting factor when it comes to your training. If you've enjoyed it, hit the thumb up button, and to make sure you get all of our videos, hit that globe to subscribe. And if you want some recipe ideas on a recovery smoothie, I've made a video with a few suggestions down here. And if you want something a little bit different, talked about vegan toast and all things vegan and nutrition with professional triathlete Joe Gambles just here.